welcome back to my channel. It's Banter with Uyi, but you can call me Kemi. And we are still discussing the book by Maxillian titled Oil, Politics and Violence that discusses Nigeria's military coup culture between 1966 and 1976. So today we'll be touching on the Igbos in that era, corruption, who was the face of corruption in that era, and the elections of 1964, as well as the West during that election. Now, first, let's start with the Igbos. They were the most traveled, they were the most successful, they were the most prominent. And after the British expatriates left, they took over all the admin jobs, the clerical jobs, the technical jobs. Like, even today, if you go to a country and there is no Igbo man there, find outsiders will say if this you don't find any Nigerian, you should leave. But for us, we know that if you don't find an Igbo man there, at least run away, run for your life. So back in that era, they were the most successful. They were very, very, they were very, very prominent in that era. Now in the north, they were what? They were not happy. Yeah, witchcraft is real. Anyways, now again, like I said, the Igbos were in all parts of different parts of Nigeria. Now they were not happy about the Northerners were not happy about the success of their Igbo neighbors. So they grumbled, they resented them, and felt like they were taking all their jobs. Now, remember that North had the lowest percentage of people enrolling in school. So now, when they did get educated, by the time they finished, they realized that Igbos already had the best jobs, which led to more and more resentment. Now, sometimes people took the resourcefulness and intelligence that the Igbos exude as being antagonistic towards them. Again, I don't entirely. So the book said the resourcefulness and the intelligence exuded sometimes came across as antagonizing to other ethnic groups. It's almost like how there was that thing in Nigeria with Nigerians are very proud, we are very loud, we don't care about people's fate, people around us, we just do what we want and trample on people and stuff like that. People say that about Nigerians. So it's more like this was what the Igbos were like in that era, which I don't think is fair. They are who they are. They're not doing it because they are trying to, yes, it might be annoying, but I feel like you can just let it go. It's not that serious. It's not that, it's just their nature. For example, for someone like me, I'm very loud when I'm speaking, and sometimes people will say you're shouting, but I'm not shouting. Yes, sometimes it gets at me, but I have to let it go and understand that they don't need me from a bad place. And you also, I hope people also understand that it's for me, it's not from a bad place as well. Just making an example here. Now, Dr. Nandi in 1949, while addressing his people, stated that the God of Africa specifically created the Igbo nation to deliver the children of Africa from bondage. Peter Obi, is that you? No, no, no. Tell us. Want to deliver us. Anyways, he went further to say it would appear that God has specifically created the Igbo people to suffer persecution and be victimized because of their resolute will to live. Since suffering is the label of our tribe, we can afford to be sacrificed for the ultimate redemption of the children of Africa. Is it not fortunate that the Igbos are among the few remnants of indigenous African nations who are still not spoiled by the artificial niceties of Western materialism? Is it not historically significant that throughout the glorious history of Africa, the Igbo is one of the select few to have escaped the humiliation of the conqueror's sword? Speaking to, when some of the Igbo ancestors decided that they would rather drown at sea than, be taken as a slave. Now, this statement like this lets people saying that Igbo leaders wanted to build up Igbo as a master race. I don't agree. I don't think these statements seem like they wanted to build themselves up as the master race. They saw themselves as special. Everybody can think, even me, I think I'm special in some extent. Sometimes we all feel like we are special. Everybody can get high on your own juice, but I don't think that that makes them seem like the master race. They did consider themselves special, which is okay. So I don't think it's anything that anybody needs to worry about. It's just you giving ginger to your people and making them fight for what they believe in. you know. But as a master race, no, I don't think that's what it is. However, what I do not like, what not like I don't like, what I want to call out in this is it seemed like they had always been victimizing themselves, because in this era, they were one of the most successful ethnic groups. They were successful, they were prominent, they had the best jobs. Matter of fact, Namdia Zikwe had a coalition with the leading party, with the MPC. So how in all of that you still find a way to victimize yourself and your people is something that will be funny to me. Something that makes like, okay, if this statement was made this year, 2024, I completely agree. Like, yes, the Igbos have been a victim. They've been a victim of a lot of atrocities from, the government. But in this context, I don't necessarily agree with the victimization of themselves here. Now, where the problem started from. In May of 1953, a delegation of the Action Group scheduled a visit to Kano. NPC leaders opposed it. I feel like at this point, the people of that AG, just the Yoruba part, they should have said, okay, they don't want us to come. Somebody says, don't come to my house, then stay in your house. Why are you going to visit them? Anyways, the Minister of Defense at the time, his name is Malam Unua Wada, said they were abused in the South. Now they want to come and abuse us in our own home. The abuse is referring to, I believe, was when the northern leaders voted against getting independence. That would have been 1957. They voted against it. So people from the south abused them, like insulted them. So that's what he's speaking to. It wasn't like just abused them randomly. It was as a result of them voting against independence in 1957. So as a result, he organized 1,000 men in the city to meet force for force. Delegates are coming to visit you. Even the delegates, why are you going? They say they don't want people to come. Why? He organized 1,000 men in the city to come to meet them force for force. So ridiculous and delusional. Instead, the mob decided to attack their Igbo neighbors. Make it make sense. Everybody has some level of jealousy. Anybody can be jealous. Sometimes you get jealous of the next person, like, oh, this person is doing well, why am I not doing well? But when you take your jealousy to the extent that you would take blood from somebody because you feel like they are doing better than you, then you have a problem. They're very problematic. They were the ones that consider themselves the master race. They were the ones that consider themselves superior to everyone else in this context. They were the ones, the leaders from the north back then were the ones that thought that they were superior to everybody else. Now let's go into corruption. Corruption is still crazy, even in Nigeria in 2024. We still have corruption. However, back then, there was corruption among the ministers, and particularly there was Chief Festus Okoti Ebo. He was the poster child of corruption. Fun fact, I saw on Twitter someone pulled a post said, I didn't get the time to read it, but the overall message was this Chief Festus Okoti Ebo, was the one that first birthed the idea of the Calabar coastal way that they've now used to break through the beach of Landmark Beach, which is really, really sad and unfortunate. So like it was a hasty decision. They should have found a way around it. It's 2024. There are so many. Why? Anyways, I digress. So apparently, Chief Festus was the one that brought the idea, but his name was everywhere. It was frequently mentioned whenever there was a conversation about corruption. The book said he's fat and jovial. I'll put his picture here. I don't think he's fat. However, he does look jovial. He looks like he dresses so well. Look at him. He had this whole train that he carried, like this. There was a boy carrying his train in the picture. I will put the picture somewhere here. So this guy was fly, he looked good. Anyways, so it does look like he was jovial, but he was called festering Sam. Festering means when there's pus coming out of something. It's spots. Festering Sam. Whew, that's hard. Now, a former colonial officer said he was a gross squalid. He was a gross squalid crook who dragged Nigeria down to his own level. He dragged Nigeria into the sewer. But because of his corruption, Nigeria has no sewers. Well, today, Nigeria still has no sewers. Still corrupt as ish. The corruption is still rife and oof. Let's talk about the federal elections of 1964. Now, the alliance between the Northern Party, which is MPC, and NCNC, which is the Eastern Party, was breaking up. As a result, NCNC and AG were now forming a coalition. I feel like it was quite how early of them. Like you're just forming a coalition since. Anyways, NCNC, Igbos, and AG, Yorubas were now forming a coalition called UPGA or UPGA, which is the United Progressive Grand Alliance. Her name is not fly though. Well, they are progressive anyways. Grand Alliance. Now, NNDP, which is Akitola's people that left the AG, formed an alliance with the federal government, which is NPC, and they formed NNA, Nigerian National Alliance. The election that they conducted was based off personal abuse and ethnic prejudice. Does that sound like the last election? If you say yes, it almost feels like I'm reading the last election. But the differences were there were rumblings of a military coup, the East was threatening to leave, and then there was threats of violence. You know, what's the difference between this is 1964, guys? 1964. And there was still this level of violence, there was still this level of ethnic divide. Like it's crazy how they made Daddy Ball Rove's rival to become an Igbo person. I don't even know if his mother is truly Igbo, but his father is Yoruba. And these people have people in their families that are married to people from the East, which means inherently they are not necessarily tribalistic, but they know that if they push that narrative, it will cause, they would ginger people who inherently are actually tribalistic. They used that and they pushed it, and people fell for it. Like, it makes no sense. They've been doing this since 1964, and in 2023, it is still happening. I can understand when a 60-year-old, like people with my parents' age, are tribalistic, but I can't understand when people like me and you, or people that are younger than 40 or 30, are tribalistic. How? In what world are you still tribalistic in 2023? Anyways, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe gave a speech as a result of the malpractices because a lot of people were giving wild speeches, and he said it is better to disintegrate in peace than to do so in pieces. Now, UBGA, which is the alliance of the Igbo and the Yoruba, decided to boycott the election because they were sure that NNA was going to rig the election. Bad idea. This is okay. Before I get to why it was bad, let me go on. NNA went on with the election, even though they decided to boycott the election. And they increased their parliamentary majority by winning unopposed in many districts. That means even though some people decided to boycott the election, they still went ahead with the election and they won unopposed. The boycott was only successful in the East. Now, let me tell you why it's only successful in the East. In the East, they are loyal. However, in the West, there's a division, and there are people that support the NNDP, which is pro Akitola people. Now, if the people are divided, albeit they are just like there are more people that support Awolowo than there are people that support Akitola, but there are people that actually support him, which means those people will go out and vote. They are not going to boycott the election on the account that some people that do not support them are not voting. It's not their business, and they are in alliance with the federal government. The federal government is not going to say no because some people don't want to vote. So it was a bad decision on their part. Now, after the election, there was power tussle between the Prime Minister, Tafawa Balewa, and the President, Nnamdi Azikiwe. But at the end of the day, the Prime Minister, so they were fighting over who would get control of the military. But the law says that only the Prime Minister can give instructions or rule to the military. So they had to urge, they shall begged Nnamdi Azikiwe to call Tafawa Balewa, and then they should form a coalition which involved NPC ministers, NCNC ministers, and NNDP ministers, which means they still left out they left out people from AG in the cold. Now, elections, so that's the state level. They still won. That's federal government. That's now NNDP and NPC, which is now the coalition of NNA. So much lingo there. Anyways, now for the elections in the West. The West at this time was called the Wild Wild West. The election had spectacular the rigging was great. Voter, they didn't just intimidate the voters, they intimidated the candidates as well. there was arson, there was murder, there was thuggery. Again, does this sound like the last election with the thuggery during the last election with the intimidation? Like these are things that they've been doing since. Like the funniest thing is they're not even coming up with something new. Like start something new, do something new. It's still the same thing, the same playbook from 1964. We're still using till today. God, I don't want to get too angry. I'm trying not to be upset. Anyways, NNDP seemed like the grandmaster, and they considered Akintola the high priest of, of rigging. His name was Riga Baba Riga at this point. So NNDP were so confident that they said that they will win even if nobody voted for them. Doesn't that tell you something? Imagine saying that they will win. So now, even in places where the opposition won, NNDP, when they announce it on radio, they would announce the winner in favor of NNDP. Does that sound familiar? Have you heard this before, like recently? Now, Westerners were angry. They couldn't believe that someone that they hated or loathed so much still won the elections. This meant that Akitola was retained and he was still the one leading the West. So, more violence, more fire. There were burnings everywhere. There was murder everywhere. It was crazy, which was what led to the West being called the Wild Wild West. Now, allegedly, rumor has it that the federal government refused to call a state of emergency because they they felt like if they do that, it would threaten the rule of Akitola. Now, I remember that when they wanted to dismiss Akitola from the AG, they did call a state of emergency, which led to them replacing Awolowo. Anyways, at the end of the day, federal government and Western region was now ruled by a result of two illegitimate elections. Illegitimate elections where the winners are the ones leading. Almost sounds like I'm talking like something that happened in recent times, don't you think so? Like, on the final note is these people have been doing the same thing since before a lot of us were born, and it's still the same thing. I want to speak to people that feel like they are going to judge a person based on their tribe. You should, while you shouldn't judge people because only God can judge us, you shouldn't judge people based on where they are from. Judge them by their action, by their character. Because you are from a tribe doesn't mean you should blindly support them, irrespective of whether they do wrong or right. We are Nigerians, and whatever is happening is for the betterment of the world. Ah. Anyways, whatever is happening is for the good of. We're all trying to get a better Nigeria, and by being tribalistic towards the next person, it's not going to favor Nigeria. It doesn't help anybody at the end. We are where we are. And now you have 0.5% for cybersecurity. What's the what? Cybersecurity fee. All the best to all of you. I hope everybody is happy. When you are doing your transfers, just remember our look. It's us, it's our time. I guess it's truly our time. Thank you so much for coming to this episode. Please subscribe to my channel. I want to hear your thoughts and your opinions below. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you next time. Bye.